Hello everyone, I'm the storyteller and I'm here to share some horror stories with you. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Also, I'd love to know where you're from and what time you're watching, so leave a comment. Now, let's begin. I was 22 when this happened, still a senior at Ohio State, driving back home to Cincinnati for the weekend. It was early October, one of those nights when the rain doesn't just fall, it assaults your windshield like it's mad at you. I'd waited too long to leave campus, got caught in the storm halfway through the drive, and the roads were nearly empty except for me, my battered Honda, and a few freight trucks thundering past in the opposite lane. I wasn't in any rush. I had a podcast playing, a bag of beef jerky in the seat next to me, and a thermos of coffee I'd already drained. I was tired but wired, if that makes sense, just trying to push through the final hour of the drive. I first saw him around 11:30 p.m., maybe a little later. He was standing just off the shoulder, under one of those old green highway signs that had seen better days. At first I thought it was a trick of the rain and headlights, a post or tree stump or something. But as I got closer, I saw a man holding a duffel bag, one arm raised like he was trying to shield his face from the rain, or maybe flag someone down. Something about how still he stood in the downpour made me instinctively ease up on the gas. I don't usually stop for hitchhikers, but that night felt different. I don't know why I pulled over. Maybe I just felt bad. Maybe the storm had me on edge and I didn't want to be alone. Whatever it was, I rolled down the passenger window and asked if he was okay. He looked to be in his mid-60s, with a face like old leather and a gray flannel shirt that clung to him like a second skin. He didn't smile, didn't say much either, just nodded and said his car had broken down a few miles back and that he was headed to a motel off exit 212. Said his name was Ray. No last name, no small talk, just Ray. There was a weird pause before he got in, like he was making sure I was real, and then he opened the door, tossed in his soaked duffel, and sat down. He didn't even shiver. The smell that came in with him was hard to describe. Wet pine, old smoke, and something that reminded me of an attic that hasn't been opened in years. The next 20 minutes were quiet. Ray didn't ask where I was headed or even thank me. He just stared out the window, barely blinking, his hands folded neatly in his lap like he was in church. Every now and then, the lightning would flash and I'd glance over. He never reacted, never flinched, just kept looking ahead like he was waiting for something. I tried to ask a few questions. Where was his car exactly? Had he called anyone? But his answers were short and vague. It's back there. Didn't have a phone. Just need a place to sleep. Something about the way he said it felt mechanical, like the words had been rehearsed. Still, I figured the guy was probably just shaken or embarrassed. I dropped him off at the Edgeway Motel, this little rundown place with flickering neon signage and maybe 5 cars in the lot. He didn't say goodbye. Just got out, grabbed his bag, and walked into the office without looking back. I was about to pull out of the lot when I noticed something on the floor by the passenger seat. It was a wallet. Dark brown, cracked leather, soaked on one edge from the rain. I figured Ray must have dropped it while getting out, and I didn't even hesitate. I threw the car in reverse and parked back near the office. Honestly, I felt a little relieved to have a reason to go back. Something about how that guy just left. I don't know. It didn't sit right with me. And yeah, I'll admit it. Curiosity was kicking in too. I didn't open the wallet or anything. I just headed inside, hoping to catch him before he disappeared into one of the rooms. The motel lobby was dimly lit, smelled like bleach and cigarette smoke, and had one of those little bells on the front desk that you tap when no one's around. I rang it once, and after a few seconds, a short woman in her 50s came out from the back. Her eyes were tired, like she'd been running the place alone for too long. I told her I'd just dropped off a guy named Ray and that he'd forgotten his wallet. She tilted her head a bit, confused, and asked what room he was in. I said I wasn't sure, but he'd just come in maybe 5 minutes ago. That's when her whole expression changed. Her face went pale, and she stepped back like I'd said something offensive. "Wait, what did he look like?" she asked, already shaking her head a little. I described him. Older guy, flannel shirt, gray hair, maybe mid-60s, carried a duffel bag, didn't talk much. The woman stared at me in complete silence for a good 5 seconds, then gave this almost nervous laugh. "You're messing with me, right?" she said. I was dead serious, and I told her so. That's when she leaned in over the counter and lowered her voice. "We haven't had anyone by that description check in here for months, and the last person who did disappeared." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. She went to the back and came out with this worn folder. Looked like some kind of incident report. Inside was a printed-out photo of a man. My throat dried up the second I saw it. Same face, same shirt, same duffel bag. I swear to God it was Ray. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I kept telling her, "No, that's not possible. I just saw him. He was in my car. I dropped him off here." But the motel clerk just kept shaking her head. "That man vanished 3 months ago," she said. "His car was found abandoned off the highway. No sign of him. Police were involved, even searched the woods nearby. Nothing ever turned up." I must have looked insane trying to explain myself. I pulled out the wallet to prove I wasn't making this up. That's when things got even weirder. The ID inside? It was old, like really old. Issued in the late 80s. And the picture? It was Ray, but younger, much younger, different haircut, but same eyes, same rigid stare. I don't know why, but I suddenly felt like I shouldn't be holding that wallet anymore. Like it wasn't just lost, it was left. I handed it to the clerk, and she didn't want to take it either. But eventually, she wrapped it in a plastic bag and said she'd call the sheriff in the morning. I went back to my car feeling like I'd just stepped out of someone else's dream. The seat was still damp where he'd sat. The rain had stopped, but the air felt heavier, like something was pressing down on me. I just sat there for a minute staring at the motel door, waiting to see if maybe he'd come out. But nothing moved. No silhouettes behind the curtain, no footsteps, just the buzzing neon and the hum of the engine. Driving away felt wrong, like I was leaving something unresolved. I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see Ray sitting there again, silent and staring. But the back seat was empty. The highway looked different on the way home, familiar but stretched somehow, like a photograph taken from the wrong angle. And no matter how many times I told myself it was all just a mix-up, some weird coincidence, the feeling wouldn't go away. That I had picked up someone who wasn't supposed to be there, that maybe for those 20 minutes, I was inside a story that wasn't mine. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept replaying everything, trying to figure out what I'd missed. His silence, the vague answers, the way he never looked directly at me. It was like he was just borrowing the moment, passing through. And now that he'd reached the place he needed, he'd vanished again, leaving only that wallet behind, like a breadcrumb in someone else's puzzle. I even called the Edgeway Motel a few days later, just to follow up. The woman remembered me, said she turned the wallet over to the local sheriff's department. But here's the kicker. They said the ID wasn't in the system. No record of the name, the address, nothing. It was like Ray had never officially existed. It's been almost 2 years since that night, and I still think about him, especially during long drives when the roads are empty and the rain starts tapping the windshield the same way it did back then. I never saw Ray again, but sometimes, when I pass by an old motel or see someone standing alone by the highway, part of me wonders, was he really a ghost? Or just someone who slipped through the cracks of the world in a way we'll never understand? I don't know. But I've never picked up another hitchhiker since. I'm Mark. I'm 34 now, but this happened when I was 29. At the time, my wife Olivia and I had just gotten back from visiting her sister in Idaho, and we were driving back to Colorado through Wyoming. We'd left kind of late, around 10:30 p.m., because we figured the roads would be empty at that hour, and we'd make better time. That was true, until it really, really wasn't. Back then, we didn't have kids yet, just us and our golden retriever Daisy in the back seat. Life was pretty peaceful. Normal jobs, normal worries. If you'd asked me that day what the scariest thing in my life had been, I probably would have said taxes. But what happened on that highway? It still doesn't make sense. And it changed how I see night driving forever. It started around midnight, not far from a town called Rawlins. If you've ever driven through Wyoming at night, you know how dead those roads are. No streetlights. Just black sky, cracked asphalt, and the occasional pair of glowing animal eyes in the brush. We were maybe 40 minutes past the last gas station when Olivia noticed headlights in the rear view. At first, we didn't think anything of it. Just another car, rare but not impossible. But the truck, and it was a black pickup, looked older, maybe a Dodge or a Ford, started creeping up fast. No turn signals, no lane change. Just barreling up behind us and hugging our bumper like it was trying to climb into our trunk. I tapped the brakes a little to signal I saw him. Nothing. He didn't slow down, just kept riding me, high beams on full blast. The inside of our car lit up like we were on a movie set. Olivia turned around, shielding her eyes, and said, "What is this guy's problem?" I muttered something about road rage, flipped my blinker and veered onto the shoulder so he could pass. He didn't. The truck slowed down when we did, stayed behind us like a shadow, not even trying to go around. I gave him room, waved him forward. Nothing. Just those blinding lights and this heavy engine hum vibrating through my chest. We pulled back onto the road, a little uneasy now, and I tried speeding up. 60, then 70, then pushing 80. But he matched us the whole way. Never falling back, never pulling ahead. Just glued to us. Olivia was fully turned in her seat at this point, trying to make out the driver. But it was no use. The glare made it impossible to see anything. No plate number, no outline of a face, just that square front, headlights burning. It was starting to feel less like a jerk on the road and more like we were being hunted. I took the next exit I saw, a narrow 2-lane that dipped into some back roads heading east. My thinking was simple. If he wasn't following us on purpose, he'd keep going straight. But the second I turned, those headlights turned too. No hesitation. That's when Olivia whispered, "Mark, he's following us." Something about the way she said it made my skin go cold. It wasn't fear in her voice yet. It was realization. And I felt it too. This wasn't some random jerk. This was intentional. That stretch of road we turned onto had no houses, no lights, no signs. Just flat land, fences, and barbed wire slicing through miles of nothing. I tried calling 911. No signal. Nothing. Olivia tried hers. Same thing. I remember looking at the signal bars like they owed me something, like if I stared hard enough I could force a bar to appear. That's when the truck did something that scared me more than anything up to that point. It cut its headlights. Just like that, gone. Darkness behind us. No glow, no engine noise, just our tires on the asphalt and the sudden suffocating silence that followed. Olivia grabbed my arm and said, "Where did he go?" I didn't answer because I had no idea. I slowed down a little, thinking maybe he turned off or stopped. Then I checked the rear view again. Headlights, right back on, but now way closer. I hadn't even heard him catch up. He must have coasted in the dark, no lights right behind us. My heart shot into my throat. I slammed the gas and took a hard right onto a dirt road I didn't recognize. Dust exploded around us and I heard Daisy barking in the back seat. I didn't even know where we were going, just moving, trying to get away. That dirt road twisted through what looked like abandoned ranch land. Tall, dry grass slapped at the sides of our car, and the occasional wooden fence post zipped past like teeth. I looked back. The truck was still there, still gaining. Olivia was shaking now, tears in her eyes, begging me to just do something. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But what do you do when there's nothing around for miles, no cell service, no buildings, and a truck that clearly doesn't want to talk? I tried swerving suddenly, seeing if that would throw him, but he swerved right with us, like he knew what I'd do before I did it. I spotted a break in the barbed wire ahead, a spot where the fence was half collapsed, like a truck or tractor had torn through it years ago. I didn't even think. I just cranked the wheel and went off-road, bouncing violently over uneven dirt and dried-up tire ruts. Olivia screamed, and something heavy flew from the back seat into the front. Daisy yelped, trying to keep her balance. The truck followed us. No hesitation, just barreled right through the same opening, kicking up a storm of dust behind it. That's when I knew. This wasn't random. Whoever was behind that wheel, they were committed to whatever this was. And I had no clue how to stop it. We drove through what looked like an old cattle field. There were bones out there. I swear I saw a cow skull half buried in the dirt. A broken-down windmill loomed ahead, its blades turning lazily in the wind like it was mocking us. I saw a dirt path curving left toward a line of silhouetted trees, and I floored it. Every bump rattled through the steering column and into my bones, but the truck kept coming. I could feel it now more than I could see it. This weight, this pressure bearing down on us like a predator toying with its prey. It wasn't about catching us yet. It was about scaring us first. Finally, we spotted something that almost felt like hope. A crumbling wooden structure, maybe an old barn or feed shed. I skidded to a stop behind it and killed the lights. Olivia was sobbing, clutching Daisy, whispering prayers I hadn't heard her say since her mom died. We waited. Nothing, just wind. The sound of our own breathing. I felt like we'd gone deaf. The silence was that thick. I cracked the driver's side window and listened. No engine, no crunch of tires, no headlights in the distance. Just the sound of that damn windmill creaking. I whispered to Olivia that I was going to peek. She grabbed my sleeve and wouldn't let go at first, but I told her I had to see where he was. I opened the door slowly, feeling the cold night air hit me like a bucket of ice. I crept around the edge of the building, boots sinking into soft dirt, and there it was, the black truck, just sitting maybe 50 yards away. Not moving, no headlights this time, but I could see the faint glow of something inside. A red dot maybe, like the kind from a cigarette, except it wasn't in the driver's seat. It was in the bed of the truck, and I swear to God, it looked like someone was just sitting back there, watching us. I backed away slowly, trying not to make a sound. Every step felt like it took a full minute. I didn't know if the person in the back could see me, or if they even cared I was there, but something about the stillness of it all made me feel like I was looking at a trap. Not a person, a trap. I slipped back inside the car and told Olivia, "He's just sitting there." She asked me what that meant, and I didn't have an answer. We waited there, hidden, for maybe another 10 minutes. The truck didn't move, no lights, no engine, no footsteps. Just that single red glow floating in the dark like an ember that refused to die. Finally, Olivia whispered, "We should run for it." I didn't want to. Every part of me screamed that leaving the car was worse, but the gas tank was almost empty, and I knew we couldn't sit there all night. I remembered passing a ranch sign maybe 5 miles back before we'd gone off-road, so we made a decision. We took Daisy, grabbed our phones and flashlight and crept through the field, avoiding the truck entirely. We walked for what felt like forever. No trail, no landmarks, just praying we wouldn't step into a hole or snake nest or worse. Every sound made us jump. Every gust of wind felt like someone whispering behind us. After nearly an hour of walking, we finally saw lights in the distance. A porch light, dim but steady. We ran to it. It was a farmhouse, real old, but well kept. An older couple answered, confused and concerned, and let us in right away. The husband, Jim, let me use his landline to call the police. I gave them our location and tried to explain what had happened, but it all sounded crazy out loud. A truck with no plates, no driver visible, chasing us through the middle of nowhere. The sheriff showed up nearly 40 minutes later. They went to check the field and found nothing. No truck, no tire marks. Not even fence damage where we swore we'd driven through. To this day, I don't know who was behind that wheel, or if anyone was. I've thought about it 100 times. Maybe it was someone messing with us. Maybe it was something worse. But I do know this. I've never driven through Wyoming at night again. I don't think I ever will. Olivia still has nightmares about the red dot in the dark. And me? Sometimes I still wake up thinking I hear tires crunching behind the house. Like maybe whatever was in that truck, it's still out there, waiting for the next couple that takes the wrong exit on the wrong stretch of highway, just like we did. I was 32 when this happened. It was early September, the kind of sticky Texas heat that makes your shirt cling to your back even before noon. I just started a solo road trip after leaving a draining job and an even worse breakup back in Austin. I wasn't trying to find myself or any of that. I just needed to be away from people for a while. I had no exact destination, just a rough idea of hitting some state parks and maybe seeing Marfa if I made it that far. I had a secondhand Ford Escape, a cooler of snacks and the kind of restlessness that makes you drive through small towns just to see what's there. That morning I'd been on the road since 7 a.m. and only stopped for gas at this faded-out station near a place called Poteet. I remember it because the signage was so sun-bleached it looked like a ghost of a logo. The place was practically deserted. One pump working, the other wrapped in caution tape. There was this tiny convenience store attached, the kind that smells like old motor oil and powdered donuts. As I was topping off the tank, I saw her. She was standing off to the side near a silver sedan with the hood up, arms crossed, hair sticking to her face. At first glance, I figured she was just some local having car trouble, but something about her posture didn't sit right. She wasn't looking at her car. She was scanning the road, eyes twitching toward the horizon like she was expecting someone, or dreading them. She was wearing a dark green hoodie even in that heat, and her hands wouldn't stop fidgeting. I told myself to ignore it. I'm not the kind of person who picks up strangers. But when I walked into the store, she followed, and as I paid for water, she suddenly asked, "Are you heading west?" I hesitated. Something in me screamed to lie. Say no, say you're turning around. But I nodded before I could stop myself. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her name was Rachel. She offered me $20 for a ride to a town about an hour away, somewhere off Route 90. I told her to keep the money, I don't know why. Maybe it was guilt, maybe the haunted look in her eyes. She barely spoke as we got on the road, just clutched this canvas tote like it held her whole life. The longer we drove, the more she seemed to unwind, but only just barely. She kept looking out the rear window, flinching at every big pickup truck that passed. I didn't want to pry, but after half an hour of silence, I asked if someone was after her. She didn't answer at first. Then, in the softest voice, she said, "If a man named Curtis shows up, don't tell him you saw me." Her voice cracked on his name. My stomach turned. I didn't ask more. I didn't need to. I've seen that kind of fear before. I used to work at a women's shelter years ago. I'd hoped she was just someone with engine trouble, but now I knew it was something worse. I didn't know Curtis, but just hearing his name made my skin crawl. I told her she was safe with me. I meant it, but I didn't realize then that Curtis was already looking for her, and that helping her would drag me into something much darker than I'd ever imagined. We pulled into a diner around 1 p.m. One of those old ones with a metal roof and faded Coca-Cola signs in the windows. It was called Gertie's, and there were only 3 cars in the parking lot. I figured it was safe, quiet. Rachel hadn't said much after mentioning Curtis, just kept her eyes on the road and her hands in her lap. Inside, it smelled like fried food and cheap coffee. A waitress in her 60s with dyed red hair gave us a booth by the window. I remember Rachel ordered fries but didn't eat them. I tried to lighten the mood, make her laugh, but her attention kept drifting to the entrance. That tension was crawling back into her shoulders. I could feel it like static in the air. That's when I made the mistake of going to the bathroom and leaving her alone for a few minutes. I swear I wasn't even gone 5. When I came back, Rachel was gone. The booth was empty. Her tote bag was still there. I froze. Then I saw her through the window, standing out by the payphone near the edge of the lot, shoulders stiff. and standing 10 feet away from her, with his back to me, was a man. Broad-shouldered, denim jacket, balding. Even from a distance he looked mean. The way he leaned toward her, towering, made my chest tighten. I stepped outside, trying to act casual, but my heart was pounding. Rachel saw me and mouthed something. "Don't." She shook her head just once. But I wasn't about to leave her there. I walked up and asked if everything was all right. The man turned slowly. That's when I saw the look in his eyes. There was this icy calm that people like him wear when they know they're in control. "Just talking to my wife," he said. Rachel looked at me like she wanted to scream but couldn't. I said, "She's with me." He tilted his head. "You picked her up?" he asked, like he already knew, like someone had told him. I said, "Yeah." His eyes dropped to the tote still in my hand, and something flickered in his face, something ugly. Then he smiled. It was the kind of smile that didn't touch his eyes. "Thanks for taking care of her," he said. "I'll take it from here." And that's when Rachel bolted. She didn't run toward me. She ran toward the back of the diner, and instinct took over. I ran after her. I heard him curse and follow. We rounded the side of the building, gravel crunching beneath our feet, my legs burning. Behind the diner was a small patch of trees and a drainage ditch. Rachel didn't hesitate. She slid right down the slope, nearly twisting her ankle, and vanished into the brush. I followed her, crashing through branches and spider webs, trying not to lose sight of her hoodie. My heart was in my throat. I heard him yell, maybe 20 seconds behind us, maybe less. And I knew right then, if he caught up, it wasn't going to end with yelling. I've seen men like that before. And I knew what they were capable of. We pushed deeper into the woods behind the diner, which weren't much more than a narrow stretch of trees and tangled undergrowth between two lots. I kept expecting it to open up into someone's backyard or a fence, but it just kept going. Branches scraped my arms and snagged my shirt. I could barely keep up with Rachel. She moved like someone who'd done this before, like she knew how to run. After about 5 minutes, we dropped into a dry creek bed, the kind with broken beer bottles and cigarette packs scattered around. We stopped, panting, hiding beneath a fallen tree. Rachel's hands were shaking so bad I thought she might pass out. I whispered, "Was that him?" And she just nodded, biting her lip so hard it started to bleed. We sat there in silence for a few minutes, listening. I couldn't hear anything behind us. No branches snapping, no footsteps. Maybe we lost him. Maybe he gave up. But Rachel was still staring straight ahead like she was waiting for a bullet. Finally, she whispered, "He has a tracker. I didn't think he'd use it." My stomach dropped. "What kind of tracker?" I asked. She didn't answer right away, just reached into the pocket of her hoodie and pulled out a phone I hadn't seen before. "Not mine," she said. "His. I thought I ditched it yesterday. He must have planted another." That explained how he'd found us so fast. That cold, calm smile wasn't surprise. It was confirmation. He knew. I told her we needed to dump the phone. She nodded and flung it into the creek bed so hard it cracked against a rock. Then she dug into the tote bag and pulled out a second one. I didn't even ask where she got it. We lay low for a while longer until I was sure we weren't being followed. Then we made our way out, sticking close to the tree line until we reached an abandoned trailer with busted windows and a rusted satellite dish. No one was around. Rachel crawled underneath the trailer and stashed her bag. "If he finds me again," she whispered, "at least he won't get this." I didn't ask what was in it. At that point, I wasn't sure I wanted to know. But I promised to get her somewhere safe. We cut across a stretch of scrubland and ended up on the side of a service road. I still had my keys. Thank God I'd left the car locked. We circled wide and approached the diner from the other side, watching for that denim jacket. Nothing. Either he'd gone inside, or he took off thinking she ran the other way. I unlocked the car from a distance and we sprinted for it like fugitives. Once we were on the road, I didn't speak for the first 10 miles. Neither did she. My hands were trembling on the wheel. I've had anxiety before, but this was different. It wasn't fear. It was rage. Rage that someone like him could show up in broad daylight. talk like he owned her, and walk away like it was nothing. We didn't stop until we hit a bigger town called Hondo. I pulled into the parking lot of a police station, but Rachel grabbed my arm before I could get out. "No cops," she said, almost in a panic. "He's a volunteer firefighter. They know him here. They won't help me." Her voice cracked at the end. I believed her. The way Curtis had looked at her back at the diner, that wasn't just some angry boyfriend. That was someone used to control, someone who knew how to make people believe his version of events. So I did the only thing I could think of. I took her to a motel just outside of town, paid in cash, and we made up a fake name for her. I gave her my backup phone and wrote down a few resources from memory. Shelters, advocacy lines. I couldn't stay with her. I knew that. But I wasn't about to leave her defenseless. Before I left, she hugged me. It was sudden, tight, and trembling. "You didn't have to stop," she whispered. "Most people wouldn't have." I didn't know what to say, so I told her the truth. I'm glad I did. And I meant it, even with all the chaos, even with the fear. That night I drove another 100 miles before I let myself pull over and cry. I didn't know if Curtis was still looking for her, or if he'd already gone back to whatever town he ran like a king. But I knew Rachel was smart, and she wasn't alone anymore. Not really. She had a fighting chance. A few weeks later, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. It just said, "I made it, thank you." No name, no location. I deleted it after reading it 3 times. I didn't need a reply. I just needed to know she was okay. I haven't heard from her since. I don't know what happened to Curtis, and I hope I never do. But every time I stop for gas in a small town now, I remember her face. The panic, the strength underneath it, the silence she wore like armor. And I wonder how many women like her are out there, running, hiding, praying for a stranger to just slow down. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who picks someone up off the side of the road. But I did. And I still think about what might have happened if I hadn't. If I just kept driving, what would have happened to her in that parking lot? What she'd already survived. I'll never forget the look in his eyes, Curtis, when he realized she was slipping away from him. That's what stuck with me. That brief flash of something real. He wasn't angry, he was afraid because for once someone got away. And I hope to God she stays gone. I was working nights as a delivery driver for a third-party app back in 2019, around late September. I had just moved to Nashville after dropping out of college, trying to figure out what the hell to do with my life. I wasn't doing anything glamorous, mostly dropping off burgers and wings to drunk college kids or tired nurses doing double shifts. It was one of those jobs that gives you too much time to think and not enough money to stop worrying. That night it was almost 11:30 p.m. and I was planning to call it after one last delivery. I had just finished dropping off an order at a motel near the interstate when I got a ping, a decent payout, but the address was far. Really far. It was listed as a farmhouse about 40 minutes outside the city. Technically still in the delivery zone, but definitely pushing the edge. No gate code, no notes, just a customer name, D. Monroe, and an old address on a back road I'd never heard of. I remember hesitating. The app usually lit up with orders around downtown, but this was the opposite direction, out where the road signs started disappearing. Still, I was tired, low on gas, and honestly just wanted to be done. So I hit accept, picked up the food from a 24-hour diner, and headed out. The drive started normal enough, a few turns off the highway, past empty gas stations and quiet subdivisions, until the streetlights thinned out. Then it was just dark. The kind of dark you only get in the country, where the high beams catch more bugs than road. I kept checking the GPS, but the farther I drove, the more glitchy it got. The signal lagged. The map spun. It rerouted me twice for no reason. At some point my music cut out and I was just driving in silence, watching the trees crowd closer to the road like they were leaning in. Then finally, the voice from the GPS said I'd arrived. Only, I didn't see a house. Just a long dirt driveway, barely wide enough for one car, disappearing into trees. I sat there for a second thinking maybe I got it wrong, but I double-checked. That was the address. I figured the house must be at the end of that driveway, so I started in slowly. The gravel crunched under my tires and branches scraped the sides of my car. No lights ahead, no mailbox, just more darkness. Finally, I saw it. A farmhouse tucked way back with chipped white paint and a roof that looked half caved in. There were no porch lights, no cars, no sound. I pulled up slowly and turned off the engine, leaving the headlights on. I don't know why, but something about that place made me feel like I wasn't supposed to be there, like I had just driven into a place that had been forgotten on purpose. I grabbed the food bag from the passenger seat and stepped out, instantly hit by that damp, earthy smell you get near creeks or rotting wood. The air felt thicker somehow. I walked up the creaking front steps, which gave under my weight like they hadn't held anyone in years. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time, and called out, "Delivery for Monroe?" Nothing. I was about to leave the bag on the porch when I heard something. A faint creak, like a floorboard shifting inside. I froze. It wasn't the wind, it was too sharp, too deliberate. My heart kicked up a notch. I called out again, "Hey, I'm just dropping off your order." Still nothing. Then I heard it again. Not one creak this time, but a few, like someone walking slowly across old wooden floors. My instincts were screaming at me to get back in the car, but part of me, stupidly, thought maybe it was just some old guy moving slow, maybe hard of hearing. So I stepped to the side of the porch to see if I could peek through the nearest window. The glass was dusty, streaked, and hard to see through. But behind it, in the faint reflection of my headlights, I thought I saw something move. Just a flicker of motion. It was gone almost immediately, but it was enough. I felt my spine go cold. I backed up and said, "All right, I'm leaving it here," and dropped the bag right on the porch. I didn't wait for a tip. I turned and walked, fast, back to the car, hands shaking a little. The moment I got inside, I locked the doors. I was about to put the car in reverse when the porch light flickered on. Not fully, just a quick zap, like a dying bulb trying to come alive. Then nothing. The house stayed dark. But that brief flicker, it showed me something I can't forget. A silhouette inside, standing in the hallway, not moving, just there, watching. I didn't see a face, just the shape of a tall figure. For a few seconds, we stared at each other through the windshield and the glass of that front window. Then the light died, and the shape vanished. I didn't even think. I threw the car in reverse so fast I almost hit a tree backing out. The whole drive back felt like a blur. My hands wouldn't stop gripping the wheel, and I kept checking the rearview mirror like something might be following me. When I got back into the city, I pulled into a gas station and just sat there under the fluorescent lights, trying to breathe. I checked the app to report the order as uncompleted, but strangely, it had already been marked as delivered and rated 5 stars. The customer name was gone, replaced by a blank. No history, no trace of the order. It was like it had never existed. That's when I really started to feel sick to my stomach. I knew what I saw. I knew where I went. But it felt like whatever I'd walked into didn't want to be remembered. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that silhouette standing motionless in the hallway, like it was waiting for me to come back. I didn't tell anyone at first, not my roommate, not even my mom when she called the next morning. I kept thinking I must have exaggerated it in my head. Maybe it was just an abandoned house and some squatter trying to scare me off. But still, something didn't sit right. So the next day, I did what I usually don't. I called the non-emergency line for the county sheriff's office. I didn't give them my full name, just said I was a delivery driver and had a weird experience out at a farmhouse near Halcombe Road. The dispatcher paused, then asked me to confirm the exact address. I gave it to her. Her tone changed instantly. She told me, calmly but firmly, that if I had been at that house the night before, I needed to come in and speak to someone in person. That freaked me out even more. I drove to the station the next day and met with a detective. He didn't say much at first, just asked me to walk him through exactly what I saw and what time I was there. After I finished, he sighed and told me the place had been under investigation for months. It had been seized only days earlier, after a raid tied it to a string of kidnappings in the area. The farmhouse was supposed to be empty. No one was authorized to be there anymore. But get this, they found signs someone had returned after the police left. Food wrappers, footprints, a broken window in the back. I must have shown up just as someone came back to the property. Whether it was one of the guys who'd been operating out of that place or someone else involved, I don't know. But the timing, it's like someone lured me there on purpose. The detective asked me to show the delivery record on my app, but like I said, it had disappeared, completely wiped. He even had a tech guy look into it, and there was no trace of any activity at that time. It's like I was never sent there. He said he believed me, but I could tell even he didn't know what to make of it. He told me straight up that I was lucky, that I probably showed up before something worse could happen. I left the station feeling like I'd brushed up against something I wasn't supposed to see. It's been a few years since then, but that night still sticks with me. I quit doing deliveries after that. Just couldn't bring myself to go out late anymore. Even now, if I see a dirt road at night or a flickering light in a window, I feel that knot in my stomach tighten up. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had knocked one more time, or waited a little longer on that porch. I never got answers, and I'm not sure I want them. But I know this, something was in that house and it was expecting me. I don't usually post stuff like this, but it's been sitting heavy on my chest for almost a year now. I'm 28, live in Dallas, and last summer I was driving alone to see my cousin in Little Rock. I left work late and figured I'd just power through the night. It's only about a 5-hour drive. Around 1:30 a.m., somewhere deep in rural Arkansas, my eyelids were fighting me hard. I didn't want to risk dozing off at the wheel, so I pulled into a small rest stop off I-30. It was one of those old, forgotten ones with a single bathroom building and flickering streetlights. No vending machines, no attendants, just silence and trees. The kind of place you'd drive past during the day without thinking twice. At night, though, it felt different. There was only one other car in the whole lot, an old beige sedan with rusted rims parked 2 spots away. I figured someone was just sleeping in their car. I backed into a spot near the bathroom and turned off the engine, letting the quiet settle. The air outside was thick with humidity, and the cicadas were screaming like they were competing for something. I was scrolling through my phone, debating whether to grab a few minutes of shut-eye or go stretch my legs, when I saw movement in my side mirror. A woman, older, maybe late 70s, was standing a few feet from my window. Thin, small frame, wispy gray hair pulled back in a loose braid. She had this pale blue cardigan that looked way too warm for the heat. She wasn't trying to scare me. Actually, she looked scared herself. I cracked the window just a little, enough to hear her without fully rolling it down. Her voice was low and unsteady, like she was afraid someone might overhear. "Honey, you need to go," she said. Her eyes darted behind her as she spoke. "Don't stay here, just get back on the road, please." I asked her if she was okay, but she just shook her head and repeated, "Please go now." The way she said it, it wasn't aggressive, it wasn't even panicked. It was desperate, like she already knew how this story ends and was trying to rewrite it. I thanked her, told her I'd be fine, and she just stood there for a second before turning and walking slowly toward the tree line. No car, no phone, just vanished into the dark. I sat there for a solid minute, engine still off, trying to process what just happened. A part of me felt like I should trust her, that something wasn't right. But then the rational side kicked in. She was probably paranoid, maybe confused, or even homeless, and just afraid of being alone at night. Still, I decided I'd just hit the bathroom real quick and be on my way. As I grabbed my keys and reached for the door handle, headlights flooded my car from the front. A big black truck had pulled in, no plates that I could see. 2 men inside. Neither of them looked at me. At first, I froze. Something about the way they pulled in set off alarm bells. They didn't park in a space. The truck stopped sideways, nose pointing directly at my front bumper, blocking me in. The passenger was this tall, broad guy, wearing a stained white tank top. He leaned forward, arms on the dashboard, like he was studying me. The driver, stockier and older, wore a trucker hat pulled low, and I could just barely see the shape of a cigarette glowing in his hand. No one moved for several seconds. I didn't either. I kept my hand on the key, but I hadn't started the car yet. My heart was thudding so hard it felt like it was shaking the steering wheel. The passenger opened his door first. He stepped out slow, casual, like he had all the time in the world. He didn't look directly at me, but instead walked around the truck bed pretending to check something. I remember the way he dragged his fingers along the metal, tapping every now and then. The sound was deliberate, sharp. He was signaling something. Then the driver got out, stretching like he just woke up from a nap. They both glanced at each other. Quick, practiced. I knew then they weren't just passing through. This wasn't random. This was something rehearsed. I finally snapped out of whatever trance I was in and turned the key. The engine sputtered. It sputtered. I'd had 0 issues the entire trip, but in that moment, it hesitated like it was deciding whether or not to help me. My stomach dropped, but it roared to life on the second try. That second felt like eternity. I threw it into reverse, but the truck was still in front of me, blocking the exit lane. The passenger started walking toward my window now, hands in his pockets, not saying a word. I didn't wait. I yanked the wheel, reversed hard into the spot behind me, nearly clipping a trash bin, then slammed it into drive and aimed for the grass off to the side of the lot. The tires caught the edge of the pavement, and for a second I thought I was going to fishtail. But I managed to cut across the grassy divider and back onto the entrance ramp. I didn't look back. I didn't care if they chased me. My hands were slick on the wheel, and I had to bite the inside of my cheek just to stop from hyperventilating. I drove like that for miles, passing exits I couldn't read, afraid to stop, afraid even to blink. The worst part? I had no idea where that old woman went. She wasn't in the trees when I sped off. Her car wasn't in the lot anymore either. It was like she'd never been there. About 40 minutes later, I pulled into a well-lit Love's truck stop just outside Hope, Arkansas. I parked as close to the front doors as I could, locked the doors, and just sat there shaking. I kept replaying everything. The woman, her warning, the truck, the way those guys moved like they knew what they were doing. I went inside eventually, got a bottle of water, and tried to act normal. I asked the cashier if they had any rest stops between here and Prescott. He said the only one he could think of had been shut down for over 2 years. People kept getting robbed out there, he said, like it was casual. Some even went missing, whole thing's boarded up now. I must have stood there staring at him for a full minute. I wanted to ask more, but I didn't even know where to start. I went back to my car and looked up the area on my phone. Sure enough, that rest stop didn't appear on any updated map. But I had been there. I saw the building, I saw the lights, I saw her. And those men, they were real. I started to wonder if the woman had been one of the missing. Maybe someone who'd fallen into the same trap and was trying to stop it from happening to someone else. The thought chilled me, and still does. I don't believe in ghosts, but I also don't believe in coincidences like that. When I told my cousin what happened the next morning, she looked like she was going to be sick. Her husband, Matt, used to work in law enforcement, and he told me that part of Arkansas had a string of disappearances in the early 2010s, mostly travelers, mostly women. They never caught anyone, and most people assumed the victims just ran off. But some of the stories, they sounded too familiar. He said one of the only things linking the cases was that several victims were last seen at or near that same rest area. I reported what happened, but without plates or clear faces, there wasn't much they could do. Still, Matt forwarded my story to an old friend at the state police. I don't stop at rest areas anymore, not even during the day. I always keep my tank above half, and I map out every major gas station along my route before I leave. I wish I'd listened to that woman the second she spoke. I don't know what would have happened if I'd gotten out of my car or even hesitated a little longer. But I know this much: she saved me. Whoever or whatever she was, she saved me. And if even one person reads this and thinks twice before stopping alone in the middle of nowhere, then maybe she's still saving people, even now. I've been driving a tow truck for almost 13 years now, mostly along the rural stretches of Arizona. Those long, dusty highways where you can go a full hour without seeing another soul. The night this happened, I was working the late shift, as usual. I actually prefer it. Less traffic, fewer jerks on the road, just me, the desert, and the occasional stranded driver who didn't check their gas gauge. At the time, I was 42, recently divorced, just trying to keep busy and make ends meet. I'd grown used to the rhythm of the night, that strange silence the desert holds after dark, the kind that makes your own heartbeat sound loud. It was a little after 11 p.m. when I got a call from dispatch. A woman had broken down off Highway 86, about 15 miles west of 3 Points. The report said she was alone. Her engine was dead, and her phone was dying too. I remember thinking that it wasn't the best spot to get stuck. Barely any cell service out there. Pitch black, no street lights, just endless desert brush and the occasional distant howl of coyotes. I headed out right away. By the time I saw the hazard lights blinking in the distance, I'd already passed 2 jackrabbits and a fox darting across the road. I pulled over behind a silver Honda Civic parked awkwardly on the shoulder, hazard lights pulsing like a heartbeat in the dark. She was standing next to the car, arms folded tightly around herself. Maybe mid-20s, messy dark hair pulled into a loose bun, wearing a hoodie and leggings, not really dressed for the chill that creeps into the desert air at night. She looked nervous, not just cold. I stepped out of my truck and gave her a small wave. "You the one who called for a tow?" I asked, trying to keep my voice friendly. She nodded, but didn't really smile. I caught a glimpse of her hands, trembling a little. "I'm Rick," I said. "We'll get you out of here in no time." She said her name was Jamie. Her voice was soft, but there was something in the way she glanced over her shoulder that didn't sit right with me. Like she wasn't just scared of the dark. She was scared of something else. As I started checking the car, she kept glancing down the road like she was expecting someone, or dreading it. "Car just died on me," she said, hugging her arms tighter. "No warning. Just died." I opened the hood and immediately noticed signs of tampering. The battery cable was loose, like someone had pulled it just enough to kill the engine. That's not the kind of thing that happens on its own. I looked back at her. "Did anyone mess with your car before it died?" She shook her head quickly, too quickly, and looked away. That's when I noticed the bruise under her jaw, half hidden by the hood of her sweatshirt. My gut twisted. I didn't push her, just nodded and said I'd hook her up for the tow. But I started moving faster. Something was off, and I could feel it tightening around us like a noose. I had just secured the hook under the Civic when headlights appeared behind my truck, coming fast. Too fast for this kind of road. Jamie stiffened like she'd been shocked, and I instinctively stepped in front of her a little. The car, a dark blue pickup, older model, maybe early 2000s, came to a screeching stop just a few feet behind mine. A guy jumped out before the engine even died. Tall, wiry build, shaved head, big hands that twitched as he walked toward us like he couldn't decide whether to act calm or explode. "Jamie," he said loud and sharp. "What the hell is going on?" His voice cut through the quiet like a blade. She didn't answer. She just shrank back a step, almost behind me now. That told me everything. "You know this guy?" I asked without turning around. She hesitated a second, then said, "He's my boyfriend." But the way she said it, no conviction, no warmth. It was like she was reading from a script someone forced into her hands. The guy stepped closer. "She doesn't need a tow. We got it handled. I'll fix it." He looked at me like I was a bug he was deciding whether to crush. I kept my voice even. Car's not drivable, already started hooking it up. I saw his jaw clench. He didn't like being challenged. Guys like him never do. There was a beat of silence, long enough for me to feel every hair on my arms stand up. Then he smiled, but it wasn't a real smile. More like he was pulling his lips apart to show his teeth. "Why don't you unhook it and let her decide?" he said, voice syrupy but tight. I turned to Jamie, and this time I looked her dead in the eyes. "Do you want to go with him?" She didn't answer. She was frozen. Her eyes were glassy, wide, and fixed on the guy like he was holding a loaded gun, even though his hands were empty. That was enough for me. "I think she's safer with me," I said, and started walking back to the truck to finish the hookup. That's when he snapped. He came at me fast, hand reaching into his jacket. I didn't wait to find out what was inside. I turned and put my shoulder into him, hard, knocking him sideways into the Civic. He stumbled but didn't fall. I yelled to Jamie, "Get in the truck, now!" She bolted without hesitation. The guy reached again into his coat, but I was already climbing into the cab, slamming the door and locking it. My heart was pounding like I'd just outrun a bear. He was screaming something outside, slamming his hands on the hood. But I threw the truck into gear and peeled onto the highway, the Civic dragging behind us. The last thing I saw in the mirror was him chasing us for a few yards before disappearing into the dark. We drove in silence for a while, both of us breathing hard. I kept checking the mirrors, half expecting those same headlights to come tearing up behind us. But the road stayed empty. Jamie didn't say anything at first, just stared out the passenger window, arms wrapped so tight around herself it looked painful. Her hands were shaking. I handed her a water bottle from the console and said, "You okay?" She nodded without looking at me, then whispered, "Thank you." It was the kind of thank you that carried weight, like she hadn't been able to say that to anyone in a long time. I didn't press her. I've learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is just be there. About 10 minutes later, she started talking. Not everything, just pieces. Enough for me to fill in the blanks. His name was Trent. They dated a few months before she broke it off, but he never really let go. Started showing up where he shouldn't. Sent her hundreds of messages. Her parents didn't take it seriously. Cops said they couldn't do much unless he did something. That night, she was headed to her sister's in Tucson with her baby, who had thankfully been picked up earlier by her mom when the car started acting up. She hadn't told anyone she was leaving. She thought she was being careful. But Trent must have followed her and cut the engine wire when she ran into the gas station bathroom. "I didn't know he was out there," she said. "I just felt it." We made it to a small police station just outside of Tucson around 1 a.m. I parked and walked her in myself. Told the officer on duty exactly what happened. They took it seriously this time. Maybe because I was there to confirm it. Maybe because they could see how shaken she was. They brought her in to give a statement, and I waited in the lobby until she came out. Before she left, she hugged me. Not some little thank you pat on the back. A full, trembling hug. "You saved my life," she said. And maybe that's true. But I still get chills thinking how easily it could have gone the other way. I drove back alone that night. Civic still in tow. My hands were steady, but my thoughts weren't. I kept replaying the moment he reached into his jacket, wondering what might have happened if I'd hesitated. If she'd said the wrong thing. If he'd gotten there just a few minutes earlier. There's a weight to those kinds of what-ifs. That was the night I realized towing cars isn't always just about engines and flat tires. Sometimes you roll up on someone's worst nightmare. And sometimes, if you're lucky, or maybe just paying attention, you get to stop it before it turns into a headline. I was 28 when it happened. At the time, I was working remotely for a publishing company and had decided to take a solo road trip from Arizona to visit a friend in Denver. I'd just gone through a bad breakup, and the open road felt like a kind of therapy I didn't know I needed. I planned my route to pass through some of Colorado's most scenic mountain highways. It was late October, That weird time when fall clings to the trees, but the wind already bites like winter. I remember that day clearly because it was the first time I saw frost on the inside of my windshield. I had left my motel around 7 a.m. with coffee in hand and music on low, just trying to enjoy the drive and clear my head. By the time I hit that mountain pass, it was close to 2 in the afternoon. The sun was starting to dip, casting these long golden rays across the rocky slopes. The road itself was narrow and curved sharply in places, with very few spots to pull over. There weren't many cars around, which made the whole drive feel both peaceful and slightly eerie. Just me, the wind, and the cliffs. I remember passing signs that warned of falling rocks and advised drivers to use emergency pull-offs only in case of severe trouble. I wasn't thinking much of it until I saw a dark green SUV with its hazard lights flashing, parked awkwardly on the gravel shoulder up ahead. A man was standing beside the SUV, waving both arms as I approached. He looked frantic, like someone in genuine distress. I slowed down, unsure at first if I should stop. I mean, this wasn't a place with cell reception, and if something really was wrong, I might be the only person who would come by for a while. He stepped a little closer to the road as I eased onto the shoulder a few yards behind his vehicle. My heart was already beating faster. Not out of fear, but that heightened state you get when something feels off, but your brain hasn't figured out why yet. I cracked the window first, just a little. He came up to the passenger side, his breath fogging up the glass. He said his wife was having some kind of medical episode in the car and he didn't know what to do. His voice was shaking, and he kept glancing toward the SUV like he was expecting her to scream or something. I asked if he had a phone. He said it was dead. Then he asked if I had one. I did, but I lied and said no. That's when I stepped out. I still don't know why I did that. Maybe I felt guilty. Maybe I didn't want to believe I was in danger. But as soon as I got a better view of the inside of his vehicle, there was no one in it. The back seats were empty, the front passenger seat reclined but untouched. No purse, no jacket, no sign that anyone else had been there at all. I stood frozen for a second, trying to process what I was looking at. The guy noticed. He suddenly got a little too chatty, telling me she must have gotten out to throw up somewhere and maybe she'd wandered off toward the tree line behind us. He kept motioning vaguely to the slope beside the road, filled with tall pine trees and jagged rocks. My eyes followed his hand, and that's when I saw it. Movement. Not quick or startling, but deliberate. Someone was there, maybe 20 or 30 feet into the trees, half crouched and slowly rising. It was another man. Taller than the first, dressed in a dark hoodie and jeans. His face was partially shadowed by the trees, but I could see enough. He wasn't looking around like he was lost. He was looking directly at me. And he wasn't rushing, just taking slow, steady steps forward like he had all the time in the world. My stomach dropped. Everything in me screamed to run, to move, to do something. But I froze for half a second too long. The guy near me took a small step closer, and something in his expression changed. Less worried husband, more something else. Cold, expectant, like he was waiting for a cue. "I think she went that way," he said again, pointing, but I didn't even look this time. I backed up one step, then another toward my car. "You sure you can't call someone?" he asked, his tone sharper now, like he knew I was lying. I mumbled something like, "I'll check," but my voice barely came out. I kept backing up, not turning around because I didn't want to take my eyes off either of them. The man in the trees was getting closer. I could see more of his face now, his mouth slightly open, expression blank like he was focused on one thing only. Me. That's when I made my choice. I turned and ran full speed back to my car. I didn't wait to see if they chased me. I yanked the door open so hard it slammed into my hip, scrambled inside, and locked it before I even sat down. My hands were shaking as I jammed the keys into the ignition. The guy near the SUV started shouting something, but I couldn't hear over the sound of my own heartbeat and the engine. I floored it, gravel spitting out from my tires as I peeled away, swerving slightly as I merged back onto the road. My rearview mirror showed nothing for a few seconds. Then I saw them both just standing there, side by side now, watching me go like they weren't even surprised. I didn't stop driving for over an hour. My hands were clenched so tightly on the wheel that my fingers ached. The winding road blurred past me, and every time I saw a bend or a shadow, I half expected to see their SUV in front of me again, like they had found a shortcut and were waiting. But I didn't see another car for miles. I didn't even have the nerve to pull over until I reached a small rest area with a vending machine and a map pinned to a faded wooden board. My legs were trembling when I got out. I sat on a bench, phone finally showing a weak signal, and called my friend in Denver. I tried to keep my voice steady, but as soon as I heard her pick up, I broke down. I didn't call the cops right away because I didn't know what I would even say. Nothing technically happened, right? No one touched me, no one blocked my car, no one pulled a weapon. But that wasn't just a random roadside issue. I know what I saw, and I know what I felt. Pure, targeted intent. Like they'd done it before. Like I was just the next girl they tried to pick off. That was the worst part. How routine it felt to them. No panic, no desperation, just a setup. And I'd almost walked right into it because I wanted to believe someone needed help. The next morning, I did report it to the local sheriff's office. The deputy I spoke to didn't outright dismiss me, but I could tell he thought I was either mistaken or just jumpy from being alone on the road. He asked if I got a license plate. Of course I hadn't. He said they'd send someone to check the area, but that it was probably nothing. I remember feeling frustrated but also strangely relieved, because the look in those men's eyes, if they had wanted to catch me, I think they would have. I think they were waiting for something, maybe a second of hesitation, a few more feet between me and my car. I don't know. But I got away. Barely. It's been 3 years since that day, and I still think about it every time I see hazard lights on the side of the road. I still drive. I still go on solo trips sometimes. But I never stop for anyone anymore. That sounds cold, I know. But I've made peace with the idea that I'd rather live with guilt than not live at all. I don't know who those men were, what their plan was, or how many others they might have tried that on. Maybe nothing ever came of it. Maybe I was just paranoid. But deep down, I know the truth. If I had walked a few more steps toward that tree line, you wouldn't be reading this right now.